rubbish.
The majority of it, we had like little bits from other places rather than actually like impose it.
Listen, if it's good enough for George Harrison, it's good enough for you, all right? No problem.
I like the way you focused on the themes of the book, you know, the freedom thing. The stars, in the book, the stars are a symbol of freedom. To see the stars, to be free. And yeah, I really thought it was great.
And those bars as well.
Yeah, the bars, fantastic.
Yeah, really good.
What was that? Can I just say, what was that water effect thing? What was that?
It was like you know the Alps, like the music is going up and down.
Yeah.
It shows like an ant sort of thing.
I know, like a sort of
yeah, and it was like the ice had like part melted, and it was like trapped in there.
Like in glass or something. I was
under
ice.
I thought it was milk.
Yeah, it's great. Really nice.
Absolutely nice. Okay. Anybody? Any questions to Catherine, please? Sir.
You know the character Finn?
Yeah.
You know when he wakes up and he thinks he's seen the outside?
Yeah.
At the end of the book it shows that he's actually the man that was going to marry before, and was it a plot by the Queen to try and...
Yeah, you've got to read book 2. Yeah, Claudia's first fiancé has disappeared mysteriously, and she thinks Finn is him. But I wanted the reader not to be sure, all the way through the book, whether it is him or not, or whether it's just wishful thinking on her part. So in book 2, when he gets out of the prison, well, I'm just going to hint here. He gets out of the prison and he comes to the court and he says, you know, I am Prince Finn, Prince Giles. But then another Prince Giles turns up and says, no, you're not, I'm Prince Giles. So then he's in a lot of trouble. But whether he is or not, I can't tell you.
You only got one way to find that out.
Read.
Copies, Blackwells are at the back there. Buy a copy of the book. Any other questions from parents or from young people or from anybody else? Do we have any other questions? Yes, please.
How did you actually come up with the idea? Because it's really different to...
Right, oh that's good. I like writing about buildings that are alive. You know, I've done it before with a palace which was alive. And I thought I'd like to do it for a whole novel with a building. And then I tried to think of what sort of building would be interesting. And actually lots of them would. I mean, imagining a living library would be fantastic. But the idea of the prison struck me as interesting, because then as soon as you've got a prison, you've got like sort of a big brother thing, you know, where the prison is watching its prisoners and controlling them all the time. And then you obviously have a story, because the story is that they have to escape. And Incarceron, which is alive, and a character in the book doesn't want them to escape, so it controls what goes on. And it just started with a small thing like that, and then you just play with the idea. And you end up with a massive book.
And writers never know where the ideas come from anyway, so
it's hard to say.
It is. You had another question.
Did you always have a passion for reading when you were young?
Oh yes, absolutely. I used to live in the library. I come from Newport, and we used to have a very small branch library near my house. And I used to sort of live in there. I used to go there every Wednesday night after school, and we were only allowed to borrow 3 books. And I tell you what, you know, junior fiction these days is epic compared to what we had. And I just read my way through more, because I really was into reading. I didn't know I was going to be a writer or anything like that, but I just liked stories and just getting into a story and losing myself in a story. And it was only later that I realised I wanted to write them as well.
So if you were interested in reading, maybe one day you also might become a writer. Same to all of you. You'd be interested in becoming writers? Starve in a garret? You never know, do you? It's possible. You never know until later life, as Catherine says. Any other questions from anybody?
Can I just ask, you know, say, Catherine, you're writing so many books, and I'm sure you don't do them one at a time.
Oh, I do.
You know, you do?
Oh, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
You know, you read of other authors and they jump in from one story and one book to another.
Yeah, I can't do that. I mean, I can't multitask. I only have to do one book at a time.
Right.
And then that takes about a year to write a book. I mean, some people have said to me today, I read Incarceron in a couple of hours, and I think, because it took me over a year to write it, really. Yeah. And while I'm writing it, I'm sort of living in that world myself, much of the time. And only when it's finished can I move on to a different project.
Right.
Whereabouts do you write? Do you have a study or?
Yeah, I have a study downstairs room with nothing much in it except some books and a desk and music, because I like music when I'm working quite often, and a door so I can get out. And that's about all that's in it.
No Incarceron.
A door to the outside. But yeah, and I work there. I think it's important to have a space where you can work, even if it's only a small space.
It's interesting because what your question, because writers each do it differently. I'm the opposite of Catherine. I'm working on 3 books at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, but everyone works to their own way, and I think it's what works for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it obviously does work for you.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
No, so how do you actually write? Do you write somebody will write with a pen or computer?
Yeah, I write with a pencil. It's really high tech, actually. I write with a pencil because I like to draw. Actually, it's one of my hobbies is drawing. So when I think of writing like drawing in a sense, because I write obviously really fast, and then I sort of put a circle around things and look them in there, and then do you know what I mean? I sort of play. But you can't do that on a screen. You can't put a circle around something and arrow it into that place, or I can't anyway. And you can't doodle. You can't draw your cat when you're sitting next to you and things like that. So so I do very much like that. And then when I've done a whole chapter of the book, which is about 9 pages long, roughly about 9 pages of A4, then I put it on the computer and edit it on the screen and then save it. But I often print it out as well and then doodle all over that because I like to.
Do you edit as you go along, or do you edit at the end?
And I edit as I go along, and then when the whole book's finished, then I edit it from start to finish right the way through, because there's usually loads of things you have to change at the beginning. By the time you got to the end, you know, the beginning's all wrong, so you have to go back and change the beginning. And then I edit it another twice probably through. So it's a long old process.
Yes, sir.
Have you met any really famous authors?
Well, apart from
Phil
yeah, I mean, you do get to meet all the other authors around, you know, I've met Anthony Horowitz and Jacqueline Wilson and J.K. Rowling and all those people. Yeah, she's great. But you get to meet them at festivals and that sort of event where writers get together. There's usually a room you go in and tremble before you go on stage, and everyone's in there trembling, and that's where you meet them all. But they're too scared at that present moment to talk very much.
Michael Morpurgo, I found, was a lovely,
great.
lovely guy. If you like, you know Morpurgo's writing, recommend Michael to you. He's a brilliant writer. He's a really nice guy. Yes.
Non-stop. My mother used to go mad. You always got, you know, stuck in a book, she used to say. And I was always daydreaming and looking in school as well, you know, looking out the window just. And it's important for writers to do that. I mean, you know, you get told off quite often in class for daydreaming, but you can't write, you can't create unless you let your mind go into that sort of state. It's like sort of hypnosis, really. It's like self-hypnosis. And unless you let your mind drift into that place and find the story and think about the story and then come back and write it down, you know, you can't do it. So I would advocate daydreaming. Do as much of it as you can.
So tell your teachers that tomorrow, right? Yeah. Catherine Fisher says.
Yeah, but it is, it's work, it's how it works. It's how the process works.
Yes.
Do you feel low when you finish the book then and you've come to the end of the book?
Sort of, yeah. Sometimes you feel low because there's nothing else, it's gone.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing, it's sort of emptiness there. And you look around, you realise the house needs redecorating, and you haven't washed up for 2 months or something. But also, there's a big sense of relief because it's a big weight on you, a book. And once you've got it off your back and given it to the publishers, it's gone, and you think, oh, fantastic. And then for a few weeks, you just go around doing great things. You go on holiday, you shop, you just do nice things, and then gradually it starts creeping into your mind. What about? What if, what will I write next? So it's mixed feelings.
Yeah.
Do you ever think, like, do you ever get scared after you read the book that people might not like it and then you go back and try and fix it?
Yeah, I do sometimes because you're always scared actually, you're always scared about that. And in Incarceron, funnily enough, I was really scared about because I thought, who's going to read this book about prisoners alive? You know, it's such a weird idea. Are people going to like it, or are they going to think this is not believable? So I was
Did you,
more worried about that.
think like that maybe some people like the weird or some people like it different?
Yeah, they do.
Something they haven't
And
seen
good for
before.
them, because I'm one of them. Yeah.
Writers live in a constant state of apprehension. You know, you just, A, is somebody going to like it? B, is it going to sell? C, if I have a launch, is anybody going to turn up to it? You know, all these sorts of things, and writers can't avoid it, can you?
No, you're always worried about it.
Yes, at the back.
What do you start with? Do you start with your characters or your plot, or do you start with an object to simply start
Yeah,
off?
each book is different with that. With Incarceron, I started with the idea of the prison. I can't tell you too much about the prison, but it's actually a very strange object in itself. And I started with that idea and then worked outwards. Other books start with a picture sometimes, or with a place. You know, you go to a place and you think, oh, there's a story in this place somewhere. And sometimes a character. So it's depends on the book.
Okay, do we have any other questions, any further questions for Catherine? Your chance to ask her. Yes?
What was your impression of the film? Did
I thought they were great. I thought they were
capture what you
fantastic.
felt?
Yes, I really liked the music. I thought the dance was great, and I really liked the way that the sort of montage of images about freedom and about the sort of cages and meshes and bars and all that. It was really good. And the leaves. I mean, I don't know if you noticed the leaves, but the leaves there's a part in Incarceron where they're in a metal forest with leaves coming down. And there are lots of things that you probably wouldn't pick up until you've read the book that are actually in there. But I thought it was fantastic. How long did it take you to make them? About
3 days.
3 days?
Yeah, 3 days.
Constant.
Well, we spent one day on writing the music and composing it, and then we recorded it on the next day, and that took us a bit because the girls had to have like 6 shots because it was so long.
Yeah, we had to have 6 minutes long.
Yeah.
They were the whole. So you had the whole book into one film.
Yeah.
But you've got almost all the plot in that.
Yeah, we tried our best because we found it a bit hard to narrow it down to one.
Yeah.
And we
Condense it right
down.
down. So you had the music first, and then you put the images to the music.
Yeah, but we kind of, as we went along, kind of knew, oh, well, this will fit that. So we had a bit of a shock then on the Friday when we came to make the videos. And when we actually saw what this man had done for us.
Yeah.
And we were hoping that we would have been able to put ourselves on it, but that didn't really work out as planned. So we had to edit quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it worked in the end.
Fantastic.
I think what the key for me is that you didn't try to tell the whole story.
No.
You just made it representative. You just took things stood for something, and it was representative. I would say is the word I would use, and that really works, as opposed to trying to tell the whole story in 6 minutes flat, which you cannot do. Okay. Any further questions? Right, thank you. I think questions have been great. I think the whole evening has been magical. I think the young people, you've done such a superb job. I really admire you. I think we should thank them, and we should thank Catherine for writing such a wonderful book as well. Because without the book, you wouldn't have done that, and the whole thing goes round and round, isn't it? But also thank all the people who've put this together. It really has been a great experience. I'm sure you've enjoyed it. I take it, have you?
Yeah.
Now for the next one.
Yeah.
Right, my books are at the back. Seriously, if you want to buy books, Catherine's book is there, plus the sequel.
Yeah. Oh, you've got to read the sequel.
And you've got to read the sequel, plus anything of mine as well. But it doesn't matter what you read. The important thing for me is that you read. You read, you read, you read. We've got a wonderful library here, absolutely brilliant. Come in, use this library whenever, wherever you can, because if you're reading, you're creating in your head, you're drawing pictures in your head, and that's what Catherine does, that's what I do, and that's what you've got to do. So use it. So well done. Thank you very much for coming this evening.
The young people just want to say a quick thank you to Catherine.
Oh, guys. You have to do this to me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So lovely.
Thank you for attending. It's been an honour to have you.
Is it? Oh well, I hope it's not the last. Thank you for the flowers. Thanks everyone. Thanks very much.